Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are gathered here today for the 13th of Ramzan. I'd like to start today's program by Dua Mujir. I'd like to invite my father, Abid Naqvi. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला मुहम्मद सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला मुहम्मद दुआ मुजीर बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला मुहम्मद अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला मुहम्मद अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला मुहम्मद सुब्हानका या अल्लाह तआला या रहमानु अजरना अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या रहीम तआला या करीम अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या मालिक तआला या मालिक अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या कुद्दूस तआला या सलाम अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका मोमिन तआला या मुहैमिन अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या अज़ीज़ तआला या जब्बार सुब्हानका या मुतकब्बिर तआला या मुतजब्बिर सुब्हानका या खालिक तआला या बारियो सुब्हानका या मुसव्विर तआला या मुक़द्दिर सुब्हानका या हादी तआला या बाक़ी सुब्हानका या वहाब तआला या तव्वाब सुब्हानका या फत्ताह तआला या मुर्ताह सुब्हानका या सय्यदी तआला या मौलाई अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या करीब तआला या रक़ीब अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या मुग़दी तआला या मुअज़्ज़ीज़ अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या हमीद तआला या मजीद अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीब सुब्हानका या कदीम तआला या अज़ीम या मुजीर सुब्हानका या गफ़ूर तआला या शकूर सुब्हानका या शाहिद तआला या शहीद या मुजीर सुब्हानका या हन्नान तआला या मन्नान अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या बाइस तआला या वारिस या हय्य तआला या मुमीत अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या शफीक़ तआला या रफ़ीक़ अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीब सुब्हानका या अनीस तआला या मूनिस सुब्हानका या जलील तआला या जमील सुब्हानका या खबीर तआला या बसीर अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या अफ़ी तआला या मलियो अजरना मिनन नार या रजीब सुब्हानका या मुईद तआला या मौजूद अजरना मिनन नार सुब्हानका या गफ़्फ़ार तआला या क़हार अजरना मिनन नार या मजीद सुब्हानका या मज़कूर तआला या मशकूर सुब्हानका या जव्वाद तआला या मआज़ सुब्हानका या जमाल तआला या जलालो या साबिक़ तआला या राज़िक़ सुब्हानका या सादिक़ तआला या फ़ालिक़ सुब्हानका या समीअ तआला या सरीअ सुब्हानका या रफ़ीअ तआला या बदीअ सुब्हानका या फ़आल तआला या मुतआल सुब्हानका या क़ाज़ी तआला या राज़ी सुब्हानका या क़ाहिर तआला या ताहिर सुब्हानका या आलिम तआला या हाकिम सुब्हानका या दाइम तआला या क़ाइम सुब्हानका या आसिम तआला या क़ासिम सुब्हानका या गनी तआला या मुग़नी सुब्हानका या वाफ़ी तआला या क़वी सुब्हानका या काफ़ी तआला या शाफ़ी सुब्हानका या क़दीम तआला या मुअख़्ख़िर या अव्वल तआला या आख़िर सुब्हानका या ज़ाहिर तआला या बातिन सुब्हानका ला अजरना मिनन नार या सुब्हानका रजाओ तआला या मुर्तजा अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका ज़ल्मन तआला या ज़त्तूल अजरना मिनन नार या मुजीर सुब्हानका या हय्य तआला या क़य्यूम أجرنا من النار يا مجيب سبحانك واحد تعالى يا أحد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سيد تعالى يا صمد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قدير تعالى يا كبير أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا والي تعالى يا علي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا علي تعالى يا أعلى سبحان نار يا مجير سبحانك ولي تعالى يا مولا أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك زاري تعالى يا باري أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك خافس تعالى يا رافع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك مقسط تعالى يا جامع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك معز تعالى يا موزل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك حافظ تعالى يا حفيظ أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك قادر تعالى يا مقدر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عليم تعالى يا حليم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حكيم تعالى يا حكيم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك معطي تعالى يا مانع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ضر تعالى يا نافع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك مجيب تعالى يا حسيب أجرنا من النار يا مجيب سبحانك يا عادل تعالى يا فاصل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك لطيف تعالى يا شريف أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك رب تعالى يا حق أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك ماجد تعالى يا واحد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك عفو تعالى يا منتقم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك واسع تعالى يا مونس أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك رؤوف تعالى يا عطوف أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا فرد تعالى يا وتر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مقيد تعالى يا محيط أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا وكيل تعالى يا عدل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مبين تعالى يا متين أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا بر تعالى يا ودود أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك رشيد تعالى يا مرشد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك نور تعالى يا منور أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا نصير تعالى يا ناصر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك صبور تعالى يا صابر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مقصي تعالى يا منشي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سبحانه تعالى يا ديان أجرنا من النار يا مجيب يا مغيث تعالى يا غياث أجرنا من النار يا مجير يا فاطر تعالى يا حاضر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحان يا ذا العزة والجلال تبارك والجبروت والجلال سبحانك لا إله إلا أنت سبحان إني كنت من الظالمين فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين وصلي على سيدنا محمد وآله أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد.
I'd like to thank my father, Abid Naqvi, for that beautiful recitation of Dua Majid. Following, I'd like to request Brother Mazhar Bakri to recite Dua Iftitah. Brother Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma rabba shahri Ramadan allazi anzalta fihi al-Quran wa aftarasta ala ibadika fihi siyam. Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad warzuqni hajja baytikal haram fi hadzal ami wa fi kulli am waghfir li tilka dhunubal idham fa innahu la yaghfiruha ghayruka ya rahmanu ya Allah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma inni aftati usana bihamdik wa anta musaddidun lis-sawabi bimannik wa aiqantu annaka anta arhamur rahimin fi mawzi'il afwi war rahma wa ashadul muaqibin fi mawzi'in nakali wan naqima wa azamul mutajabbirin fi mawzi'il kibriya wal adama. Allahumma azinta li fi du'aika wa mas'al رسالتك فاسمح يا سميع مدحتي وعاجب يا رحيم دعوتي وعاقل يا غفور أسرتي فكم يا إلهي من خربة قد فرجتها وهموم قد كشفتها وأسرة قد أقلتها ورحمة قد نشرتها وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتق صاحبة ولا ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. الله. الحمد لله بجميع معامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مزاد له في ملكه ولا منادي له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاش في الخلق أمره وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده الباسط بالجود يدا الذي لا تنخذ قضائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جوده وكرامه. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك خليلا من كثير مع حاجة بإليه عزيمة وغناك عنه قديم وهو عندي كثير وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي وصفحك عن ظلمي وصدرك على قبيح عملي وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطاي وعمدي أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستجيبه منك الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وعريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا مدلا عليك فيما خسدت فيه إليك فإن أبطأ عني أعتبت بجهلي عليك ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور فلم أراك مولا كريما أصبر على عبد الله منك علي. يا ربي إنك تدعوني فأولي أنك وتتحبب إلي وأتبقص إليك وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك كأن لي التطول عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرامك فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضلك إحسانك إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على علمه بعد علمي والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرتي والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبي وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام الذي بعود فلا يرى وقارب فشاهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا زهير يعاذده قهر بإزته الأعزاء وتعوز لعظمته العظمى فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصي ويؤزم النعمة علي فلا أجازي فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أحطاني وعزيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبهجة مونخة قد أراني وأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يؤتك حجابه ولا يقلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يقيب عامله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويعز المستكبرين ويؤلق ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله خاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الحاربين نكال الظالمين سريق المستسرقين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعت السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وأمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيارتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأذكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتهننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسولك وصفتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم صل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووزير رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآية الكبرى والنباء العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبتاء الرحمة وإمام الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلاف الحادي المهدي حجاجك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم صل على ولي أميرك القائم المعمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله داعيا إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك استخلفوا في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبل مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته لا أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدوك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتله فتحا يسيرا وجله لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الحق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعزه بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلون فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والخاضعة إلى سبيلك وترزقون بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا وقصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شخصنا واصحب به صدقنا وارتق به فتقنا وكسر به قلتنا وأعزز به ذلتنا وأغني به عائلنا واغز به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به أسرنا وبيز به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وأنجز به تلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وآتنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة أعمالنا وآتنا به فوق رقبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأصعب به غيظ قلوبنا وعدنا به لما اختلف فيها من الحق بإذنك إنك تعدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكسرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا فصل على محمد وآله وإن على ذلك بفتح منك تعجل وبزر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق وسلطان حق تسحر ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم، أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينخزي عني شهر رمضان أو يدلو الفجر من ليلة هذه ولك قبلي طبيعة أو ذنب تعذبني علي.
I'd like to thank Brother Mazhar Bakri for that beautiful recitation of Dua Iftitah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise be to Rasul Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Ahl Bayt. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat. Muhammadin wa Ali. I'd like to start by thanking today's sponsors, the families of Hassan, Sireen Naqvi, and Hasnan and Seher Kazim. If you could please recite Surah Fatiha for their marhum and Kul marhumin, bil khusuz Sayyid Ishaq Shah Naqvi, Sayyid Shanaz Naqvi, Sayyida Nuzat Naqvi, Zahid Mia, Mir Kizar Hussain ibn Raza Ali marhum, Dilshad Begum binte Abbas Ali Beg, Hur Jan Begum binte Maulvi Ali Muhammad, Sayyid Ali Asghar binte Kamruddin Haidar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Just a few announcements before I invite Moulana to the member. Continuing forward, the next 2 weeks of Ramzan, inshallah, Majid al-Alis will be read by Moulana Ishrat Abbas, and prayer will be read by Moulana Mukhtar. We welcome them and look forward to seeing them tomorrow. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll be having Jashan of Imam Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salam. Dr. Teek and his family would like to invite everyone to come tomorrow, inshallah. And without further ado, before I call Moulana, I'd like to thank him on behalf of Darul Hussain Management as well as our community members. He's been a great benefit for our children. We are honored to have had him with us. Inshallah, may he continue on his journey of Islamic teachings in Najaf and in Karbala. Without further ado, please recite loud salawat for Moulana Ali Hassan Abidi. Nare Takbir, Nare Risalat, Nare Haidari,
Yani
Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
Ma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين. May we send our peace and blessings to upon the mercies of mankind, Rasulullah and his holy Ahlul Bayt, and especially upon the master of our time, Sahib Asr wa Zaman, Ajallah Ta'ala Fajr Sharif. Ya Allah Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers, sisters, respected elders, youth of the community. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We welcome you all again to another night of the month of Shahr Ramadan, the month of mercy, in which all your breaths are mercy. And everything that you do in this month is rewarded and multiplied by 70. In this holy month of Shahr Ramadan, I began these series of lectures discussing the will of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Today we will conclude that will. And as such, I brought this Nahj al-Balagha from here actually, to remind everyone that this sits right here, and everyone can use this to read the will of Amir al-Mu'mineen at any time that they want to. This is will number 47 in Nahj al-Balagha, and in this copy that's in the masjid here, it's page 530. In the last couple of nights, we discussed most of the will, and tonight we'll complete the last half of that will tonight, inshallah. As such, I reminded everyone in the beginning of the month of Shahr Ramadan that anyone remember how many people passed away last year? Exactly. 70 million people. Great job, brother. 70 million people. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. 70 million people did not make it to this Shahr Ramadan. 70 million souls left this world within the last year, 1 year from the starting of this month of Shahr Ramadan. This, as it's a reminder for all of us that life is not promised. I reminded everyone of that every single day. Why? So you know that turn now to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before it's too late. Because the mercy is available to you until the last moment of your life. But when that moment passes, like I said in the beginning, everyone in the grave wishes they can come back for one more sujood, one more dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one more time they can say astaghfirullah and ask for forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Imam Ali alayhi salam, he asked the people of the grave, what did they say? When he was telling them, all your provisions are gone, they replied back and they said that we wish the best thing that you had in this dunya was taqwa. That means awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing else. And as such, Allah reminds us of that all the time. And even in the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Asr, what is it? Wal Asr. What does that mean? Wal Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. By time, indeed mankind is at a loss. Allah reminds us that time is passing by. And He swears on things in the Holy Quran which are apparent to us. Can anyone deny time passes by? We cannot. It's a reminder to us that the clock never stops ticking. And He gives us conditions in the rest of the surah. He says that, except for those who have faith, who enjoin goodness and enjoin others to have sabr. That's what He says in the rest of the surah. So He gives us conditions. He says, all of these people who do not do this will be at loss. And He swears by time. And time is the biggest reality that we have, that no one can deny. The gray hairs that we see are a reminder that time is coming for everyone. Remember this. And every day you have that reminder. Every breath that we take is a footstep towards our death. This is what Imam Ali alayhi salam had said. And with that, we should remember that we should spend the rest of our life, whatever we have left. Who knows if we have only this night, in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, you want to live an impactful life. A life that will make a difference in the world. Not a life that you just worked your entire life to earn some money. As I reminded you, the example of the king. He laid out all his wealth and showed people that on the way to his funeral, he wanted to show people that he's leaving all this wealth behind because you take nothing with you to the grave. What you take to the grave is your good deeds and the impact you had on others and the good deeds that you have done in this life. Whether you helped someone become a better human being, whether you taught someone something that's beneficial to them, whether you did a good act in this life. And all those actions which are sadaqah al-jariyah. For example, supporting the masjid, building a masjid, planting a tree, donating a well to an area that needs it. These are the actions which will support you in the akhirah. The accumulation of wealth will not support you unless you accumulate that wealth and use that wealth to help others. So remember this and keep this as a reminder, because you want to live a purposeful life. You do not want to be remembered by the money you had. You want to be remembered by the deeds you left behind. A man was told he was going to die. So he went to 3 friends. And I want everyone to guess what these 3 friends are. He goes to the first friend and he tells them, I'm going to die. What can you do for me? The first entity says that, I will buy your coffin and pay for your expenses. But after that, you're on your own. I can't help you in the grave. He goes to his second friend. The second friend, he asks him, I'm going to die. What can you do for me? Can you please help me? He says, no. What I can do is I can carry you into your grave. That's it. My job stops there. Then he went to his last friend and he says, oh, dear friend, I'm about to die. My first friend is going to buy my coffin. My second friend is going to lay me into my grave. Can you help me beyond this? The third friend says, yes, yes. I will not only be with you during that time, I will be with you in your grave. I will defend you in your grave, and I'll defend you in the barzakh, and you'll see my rewards in the barzakh, and you will see me defend you on the day of judgment when every single one of us is going to be judged in front of everyone. That day will come. Do not think that there is no day that we will not be accounted for, and we will not be responsible for our actions. Now, can anyone guess which one of these three friends, 1, 2, and 3 were? The first friend will only pay for your expenses and buy your coffin. That friend is money, your wealth. That wealth will stop right then and there. It'll pay for your expenses and buy your coffin. The second friend, what is that? Who will lay you into the grave? Yes, your actual friends or your family. But the last friend, the friend that's going to be with you in the grave, in barzakh, in the day of judgment, is your amals. Exactly. This question was posed by Rasulullah to his companions, in which he reminded them of these three things. And this is a reminder to all of us. Focus on your deeds. Live a life for the next world while you're still alive. Because when that time comes, there will be no more chances to work for the next world. The count stops right then and there. As such, we have to learn, as I mentioned in the beginning of these lectures, to have a vision and to see life through the eyes of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because that's how you will be on the right path always. We always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our prayers, Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Guide us to the right path. Every single prayer we make a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask Him to guide us to the right path. Allah has given us the right path. And I've said it time and time again. The words of Rasulullah, I leave behind you two things. Two weighty things, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. Hold on to them, you will never go astray. This is the guidance that was left for us. And as such, holding on to the will of Amir al-Mu'mineen is of dire importance for us. The last words of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the man, the individual who lived and breathed the Quran and showed us how to live a perfect life as the best servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life. That was Amir al-Mu'mineen. As such, I will continue upon the last parts of his will tonight. He says, and I'll begin with the starting, just so you know, a reminder for everyone. He says, I advise you both to fear Allah, have taqwa, and do not run after this world, even if it runs after you. He says, fear Allah in relation to your neighbors. Allah has recommended them so much that we thought that they will be part of our inheritance. Then he continues on. He says, do not resent anything that you have missed in this world. Because why? Allah will always give you what you need, and anything that you missed was not good for you. Then he went on to say, proclaim the truth and work for the next world. Stay steadfast on the truth, no matter what happens. People will come and try to take that truth away from you. Stay steadfast. That's our duty as Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, I heard your grandfather say, reconciliation of your differences is worth more than all your prayers and all your fasting. Remember the example of the sticks, the bundle of sticks. United, no one can break them. When the sticks are taken out of that bundle, one by one, the enemies will take them out. Just like this, the enemies of the ummah will take out this ummah if we're not united. Fear Allah in relation to your prayers. It is a pillar of your religion. And fear Allah and remain attached to the Holy Quran, and no one should surpass you in implementing the Holy Quran. Persist in jihad and struggle in the way of Allah with your tongue, your souls, and your money. And maintain communication and exchange of opinion amongst yourselves, and do not forsake the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not abandon it. And that includes the masjids. And as such, we go towards the last part of this will, in which he says, do not desist from promoting the good deeds and stopping people from doing the bad deeds. What is that? It's a tenet of our faith. Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy al Munkar. It's a duty upon all of us to promote the good and to stop the bad, no matter how we see it. But that, you have to do it in a way, number one, when you promote the good, we have to always be an example ourselves. Be the good you want to see in the world. You always hear that quote, right? Be also the good that you want to promote in the world, in yourself before you tell others. And number two, when you want to do Nahy al Munkar and stop people and caution them against bad deeds, make sure you're not doing that bad deed yourself. Remember that. And second, do it in a way that you do not hurt the other person. When someone might be making a mistake or doing a bad deed, and you want to remind them of this, do not yell at them. Do not, remember, what did I say yesterday or the day before yesterday? Rasulullah came as what? A physician, a doctor who wanted to heal the hearts of mankind, not as someone who wants to banish people to hell. Keep that in mind when you do this. When you want to caution against the bad deeds, think about this. You want to heal that person, not hurt that person. And the best example you can see from Imam Hussain, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And they have a very beautiful example in which they show you how you can do this while respecting others, while making sure you don't hurt the feelings of others, and while making sure you make them feel good while they're learning about what they're doing wrong. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, one day they were doing wudu in the bathroom, and they seen an old man doing the wudu wrong. So they said they wanted to help him and teach him how to do the wudu the correct way. But they knew that he was much older than them. They had respect for him. And they didn't want to go up to him and say, "Oh, uncle, you're doing the wrong thing." They wanted to teach him in a way that they respect his age, his status, and while he can learn, what he's doing is wrong. So what they do, and they come between each other, and you can see how beautiful our imams are. As children, they're thinking of these things, because the knowledge was given to them as children from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the imams proved this as children. So together they make a plan. They said, we're gonna have a competition between us in front of the old man and say, who can do the wudu the best way? Right? So they both go in front of the old man and they both start doing wudu. They want to see who does it better. And purposely, one of them makes a mistake so the other one corrects it. You understand? He purposely made a mistake so the other one corrected him, the other imam. And the old man is watching this. Now the old man knows these are the children of Abu Talib, Ali ibn Abu Talib alayhi salam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, these are the imams of Ahlul Bayt. They're infallible. Everyone in the world can make a mistake except them. Right? So he goes towards them. He says that, I know that you two both are imams and infallible. And I understood the lesson you were trying to teach me. And I want to thank you for this. Now, do you understand how they did that? In a way that they respected his stature, did not hurt his feelings, but also at the same time reminded him of how to do it the correct way. This is what we have to learn, and this is what we have to follow in our own lives. When we caution people against doing the wrong things. Many people tell me they don't feel safe coming to a masjid. Why? Because, for example, they don't wear hijab outside, or the men, they do something wrong outside, and people know this in the community, and every time they come and they look bad at them, why are you here? You're such a bad person. This masjid is a safe space. Just like Rasulullah was a doctor for the souls, this masjid is open to everyone. It's the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is open to everyone till their last breath. So we should encourage everyone, whether you sin or you don't sin, everyone sins. Whether you know it, like it or not, everyone sins. You cannot tell me you haven't sinned in your entire life. Everyone has, and you might have repented and stopped. And think about people just like you think about yourself. And how you think about yourself, that you have become a better human being. They themselves might one day become a better human being. I've seen many people who just come to the masjid to play outside. The next year I see them sitting at the end of the masjid. Then I see them moving up in rows. And sometimes I see them in the first row, the first ones to come next year. What happened? This is the effect. You never know what can change people. So this house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always open for everyone. Remember that. Now we continue on to the next portion of his will. He says, oppose the oppressor and support the oppressed. This itself is a duty which is incumbent upon all of us, and especially in today's time. When you see the Muslim lands, especially in the land of Gaza, many people are suffering. Many people are suffering, dying every single day. And unfortunately, I've seen some Muslimin who say that there's nothing we can do. It is what it is. It's in Allah's hands. Nothing we can do about it. How will you answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment? Will you say, I was alive during the time when I watched a live genocide? Was I alive during the time when thousands of people were being martyred and I did nothing? Now, no one says to go there and physically do something. You can do it in so many ways if you just try. You can speak out. Use social media. At least be people who mention it to others. Boycott. There's many things that we can do in our lives to support. But you cannot be those who did nothing. Because how will you answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We saw babies being martyred in front of our eyes. We were alive during a live genocide. And what did we do? We went on with our daily lives as if nothing was happening. What if that was your family? Your relatives? Would you want the rest of the world to stand by and do nothing? We have a responsibility as Muslims. Not only to other Muslims, to all of humanity. And this is what Amir al-Mu'mineen has taught us. No matter who they are, if they are a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they're insan, we have a responsibility to them. No matter what happens in this life, we are responsible. You cannot stay silent when oppression is being done to anyone in this world. If you do, you are not the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I guarantee you this. Because he taught us to stand up for oppression. He always looked after everyone's rights. He says, if I was offered everything in the 7 heavens to even take the grain from a small ant, I would not do so. From a small ant, from the mouth of an ant. Everything in the world. He cared about every creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was Amir al-Mu'mineen. And this is who we follow. As such, make sure you're of those who always stay and stand up for the oppressed and speak out. But do it smartly. Remember, you don't want to speak out in a way and harm yourself. You want to make sure you do more good than harm. Speaking out in a way that you're harming yourself, you're not doing good to anyone. You have to be smart about how you do it. But you have to do something. Because you do not want to answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I did nothing while I witnessed a live genocide in my life. Remember this. And not only in Gaza, anywhere in the Muslim world, or anywhere in the world itself, if it ever happens in the future, we have a responsibility to speak out and to do something. So remember this. You will be held accountable. As such, we go into the last half of Amir al-Mu'mineen's will, in which, and before I discuss this last half of his will, I want to teach you about Amir al-Mu'mineen and his justice. He had the most just government on this earth. Even the United Nations recognized it. Non-Muslims recognized it. Kofi Annan used to be the Secretary of the United Nations. He quoted Imam Ali alayhi salam. Non-Muslims In fact, there's a Christian author in Lebanon, George Jordak, who wrote an entire book called He is the Voice of Justice, Imam Ali alayhi salam, because he was the voice of justice. Christian, Jewish, Muslim, anyone, Imam Ali alayhi salam showed them what it means to be justice, what it means to be just, and was an example himself. One day it says that a Christian man had stolen his shield and armor. A Christian man took his armor. He left it somewhere and someone took it. So Imam Ali alayhi salam sees him and he says, how can you've taken my stuff, this is mine. He says, no. So that Christian man did not know who Imam Ali Islam was. He takes him to court. Imam Ali says, let's go to court. Fine. You see this? Imam Ali alayhi salam took him to court. And while you understand, he was the Khalifa at that time. Imam Ali alayhi salam took a Christian man to court while he was Khalifa. You understand the significance of what I'm saying? He was the Caliph. He could have just ordered anyone, take it away from him at the end. He says, let's go to court and present our cases. And now this gets even more beautiful. He goes to the court as a civilian. He says, I present my case. This man has taken my shield and armor. The judge recognizes it's Amir al-Mu'minin, the Caliph. He gets up and says, Salam, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, Ya Abul Hassan. He says, no, don't recognize me as such. I am here as a civilian. The Christian man doesn't know who he is, so he's confused. He's like, who is this guy? You know, do they have some relations? He has some status here. So they continue. Eventually, the judge asks him, do you have any proof? He says that, I don't have actual proof that he has taken my shield. I just know it's mine. So the judge, and he orders him rule fairly based on the evidence. Judge orders the shield to be given to the Christian man, because Imam Ali did not have actual physical proof to prove that it was, or witnesses that someone took it. And he leaves, and he abides by the order and says nothing, and smiles and walks away, happily with the order that justice has been done, even though he lost his own shield and armor to someone while he's the Khalifa of the time. Do you understand the significance? And the Christian man realizes, and someone may have told him, that he's the Khalifa. And the Christian man says, if this is the leader of the Muslimin, who can accept justice like this, while a non-Muslim comes to a Muslim land, steals the armor of the Caliph, and he is the one who is granted the shield and walks away, and the Caliph walks away smiling, this must be the religion of the prophets. And he himself eventually converted to Islam. This was the justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He did not care which religion you belonged to, who you were. He made sure that he did justice in his life. And as such, as you know, Amir al-Mu'mineen, for 25 years, the caliphate was taken away from him. 25 years he stayed without the caliphate. And then what happened at the end? When Uthman was killed, people flocked and rushed towards Amir al-Mu'mineen, begging him to take the caliphate. Begging him. They realized the mistake they had made in this life and the corruption that had happened. And they wanted to see the time of Rasulullah once again. And they rushed. It says in Nahj al-Balagha, right here in this book, that they came like a pack of hyenas. Like the hyenas surround someone, a flock of animals. They came rushing towards him, calling upon him, please be the caliph, please take the caliphate. Because they needed the justice. They missed the justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And they knew the world was in dire need of it at that time. And just like that, the world is in dire need of its justice today. And we have the responsibility to be agents and ambassadors of that justice. You know, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he left this world, but he became a lesson for humanity. A lesson for all of us to carry on in our lives, to be like Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the last part of his will, he says, do not forsake the orphans and do not abandon the orphans and take care of the orphans. You know, he was known as the father of orphans in his life. He would always make sure the orphans had something. And he would tell the orphans, if you do not ever call yourself orphans and say you do not have a father, because I am your father. If someone asks you, who is your father? Say Ali. And people at that time used to say, I wish I was an orphan so I can call Imam Ali alayhi salam my father. That's what he gave. That was the justice of Amir al-Mu'mineen at that time. He wished, and helped him so much in his life. It says that when he was struck with the sword and poisoned, he needed milk. And he said that milk would help him at that time. It says that orphans came outside the house screaming, "Oh my father, oh my father." They're wondering who's calling outside the house. It was the orphans. "We have come to you with milk. We heard you needed milk." This was Amir al-Mu'mineen. And you know the most beautiful parts, and this is a very beautiful story, when Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck, he says, do not harm him. Treat him fairly. Make sure he's only, if you strike him, make sure he's only struck with one strike to Ibn Muljam. Only one strike, fairly. Do not torture him. He struck me once, he must be struck only once. Those were his last wills. And he says that Rasulullah told us, do not even mutilate a dog, an animal. He's a human being. He struck me, but make sure you only strike him one time if you're going to strike him. And when he saw that he was thirsty, because of all the tension that he was facing, he was running away from doing this, he said, give him something to drink. This was Amir al-Mu'mineen. In the last moments of his life, what he was doing. And one of the most beautiful stories which I like to end with is that one day after burying Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan was walking and he sees an old blind man crying. And the man was calling out for his helper. He goes to the blind man, he sees that, who is it that you're calling out to? He says, there was a man who used to come every single night. I'm blind, I used to sit alone. He used to come feed me, be with me, spend time with me, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me company every single night. And he would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything around us would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they see him worship. And this man has not come for 3 nights. And he told them that my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, has just passed away and left this world 3 nights ago. And he described him to that man. And he says, your father was that man who used to come to me every single night and give me company when I was lonely in this world and there was no one here to take care of me. And when he heard that Amir al-Mu'mineen had passed away, this individual left this world very soon after that, because he knew that there was no one like Amir al-Mu'mineen to take care of him. He knew that Amir al-Mu'mineen was one of a kind in this world. He was a gift, a mercy to mankind, the inheritor of that mercy which Rasulullah was. And then it continues on to his children and onwards to the Imam of our time today. But all of us must remember that we have to carry on the legacy of Amir al-Mu'mineen in our lives. Be proud to be the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and carry on that justice that you've seen and witnessed in his life. And spread his message and memorize this will. This Najah Balagha sits right there. Every time you come, take turns. You have it at home, read it at home. But memorize this will. This will should be memorized by every Shia of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and every individual in the world who wants to seek justice and be a just individual. And with that, let us raise our hands in dua. Let's ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us steadfast and low on the path of Amir al-Mu'mineen. May Allah grant us guidance and help in implementing this will in our lives. May Allah make us amongst the companions of Sahaba Asr wa Zaman, Ajallah ta'ala Fratah Sharif. May Allah heal all those who need to be healed across the world and are sick. May Allah answer the calls of all those oppressed around the world, especially in the Muslim lands and the land of Gaza. May Allah grant us His infinite mercy, because remember that mercy is infinite, and infinite forgiveness in this month of Shahr Ramadan and the rest of our lives. And may we see another month of Shahr Ramadan, inshallah, and may we try our best to implement this will in our lives. And that's the last thing I would ask of you. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum Sayyid al-Anbiya, Assalamu alaikum Khatam al-Nabiyyin, Assalamu alaikum Rahmatul Alameen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Assalamu alaikum ya Fatima Zahra Sayyidat an-Nisa al-Alameen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Assalamu alaikum Hassan al-Mujtaba, Assalamu alaikum Baqiyat al-Mu'mineen, Assalamu alaikum Abu Abdullah al-Hussain arwah allati hallat bi fanaik, alayka minni Islam Allah abdul mabaqiyat wa qiyya layl wa nahar wa la ja'ala al-akhir al-ahad minni li ziyaratik. अस्सलाम अला हुसैन व अली इब्न हुसैन व अला आदि हुसैन व अला साहब हुसैन। अस्सलाम वालेकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलाम वालेकुम इमाम ज़ैनुल आबिदीन अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम मोहम्मद बाक़िर अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम इमाम जाफ़र सादिक़ अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम इमाम मूसा काज़िम अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम गरीब अल ग़ुरबा मुइन ज़ुफ़ा अल फ़क़रा सुल्तान अबुल हसन अली इब्न मूसा रज़ा राज़िब अल क़द्र अल क़ज़ा रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलाम वालेकुम मोहम्मद तक़ी जवाद अस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम नक़ी हादी अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम मोहम्मद हसन अस्करी अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम अबुल फ़ज़ल अल अब्बास इब्न अमीर अल मोमिनीन। अस्सलाम वालेकुम ज़ैनुल कुब्रा अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम मौलाना साहिब असर ज़मान अलमान अलमान अलमान। अस्सलाम वालेकुम खलीफतुर रहमान। अस्सलाम वालेकुम शरीक अल कुरआन अजलल्लाहु तआला फ़रजक व सहलल्लाहु मखरजक व ज़हूरक व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। दुआए फ़रज। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाहुम्मा कुल्ले वलियकल हुज्जत इब्नुल हसन सलवातुका अलैहि वला आबाइहि फी हाज़िहि स्सा व फी कुल्ली स्सा वलिय्यन व हाफ़िज़न व क़ाइदन व नासिरन व दलीला व ऐना हत्ता तुस्किनहु अर्ज़का तवा व तुमत्तिअहु फ़ीहा तवीला बिरहमतिका या अरहमर राहिमीन।